Want to make your PC faster? Maybe put your favorite audio tape on a CD? How about the top tips to make Windows behave just a little bit better? You've got problems, we've got answers. I'm Patrick Norton, co-host of TechTV's The Screensavers, along with Leo Laporte. If you're already a fan, then you know The Screensavers is a live, daily, interactive TV show for the computer geek and everybody else who uses computers. Now, this video brings together some of the most informative segments we've done on the show, ones that answer the most frequently asked questions. We've organized the video into chapters. When we start off with Windows tips, we end with security, and we cover speed, hardware, and the finer points of multimedia, especially MP3s, in between. Oh, and you know what? We couldn't resist ending the tape with some of our favorite moments from the Screensavers set. You'll see we get a little crazy now and then. Now, if you want more information on any of the topics we cover in the video, just log on to www.techtv.com/top tips. Now let's kick it in. Got a couple of fast tips that help you shorten the Windows boot process. You know what? Take a look down here, all the way down in the corner. That's your system tray. You want to remove unnecessary programs from that. How do you do that? Well, if you're lucky, you can actually go into the settings for that application. Let's take a look at FTP now. And you know what? If you're not lucky, you're going to go to our friend MS-config. So you're going to go to the Run menu, MS-config, go to the Startup. And let's see what we have down there. Oh boy, the free web agent we're going to turn off. United we're going to turn off. PowerQuest startup utility we're going to turn off. What else? The extra power profile. That actually should do it. Hit apply and OK. What else you want to look for? Do a search and look for the startup folder. And if you look for the startup folder, you might be shocked what's inside of there. Absolutely nothing, which is what you want to see in there. There's a really funky thing. If you are on a mobile computer, every time you start up, you want that computer to search to whether it has a floppy drive. You can either right-click on My Computer or open up your system control panel, click down to Performance, and go to the File Systems and click on Floppy Disk. See where it says Search for new floppy disk drives each time your computer starts? You don't need to do that on a desktop, and just for fun, let's uncheck that, apply it, and hit OK. When we restart, you know what? You're going to notice the system's going to start a whole bunch faster because we've removed a bunch of programs you don't need from down here in the startup tray. We've taken out that floppy, and we've checked to make sure there's nothing we don't want in that startup folder.
How many programs?
Oh, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, Leo, 12 programs running.
And each one consumes system resources for the menus, for the icons, for the windows. That's what system resources are, is a small area of memory reserved for pointers for all of those items.
Let's see, 23%?
I think you have to click performance. There you go.
There it went, 22%.
See, now that is pretty low. If it goes below 20 or even 10, I'd say you're about to crash, my friend.
So the first thing you want to do is, you know what, close out the
these.
stuff you're not using. We're going to tell you a program from our buddy Analog X called MaxMem. What MaxMem does, it sits down here in the system control panel. It should be the system toolbar, which actually, one of the things to think about, anything you don't need in here.
Those also consume resources, you betcha.
And clock cycles, kill them off so they don't start up. Go into MaxMem. A simple left click will actually help free up some of the resources in your system.
What MaxMem, you got to understand what MaxMem does. It will not recover system resources, but it will reorganize your memory to be more efficient.
Exactly.
And eliminate some of those holes in memory. I asked Analog X, I said, is there any way to recover system resources in a program like yours? He says, mine doesn't, no program does. The only way to do it is restart.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you know what, if you don't need to run 13 applications simultaneously, don't. But you know what, you want to know what it is, how to do it, what happens.
Can we show them what it is?
Okay. These are files? These are pieces of files.
These are file clusters.
These are file clusters.
When you first install a file on a hard drive, or you first start filling up your hard drive, it's all nice and neat and tidy, and all the file clusters are together. There's Windows, here's Microsoft Office. They're all neat and tidy.
There's your JPEG collection.
Here's my just all in order. And then, of course, what happens is some big bad mean guy comes and eats some of your M&Ms, and they get all mixed up and all messed up. And then this is called fragmentation. Now, here's why is this a problem? Well, when the hard drive's reading, and it goes here, 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 here. It's not orderly.
It's not efficient.
It's not efficient.
Wastes time on the hard drive.
This little handle on the hard drive is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that's fragmentation.
Yes.
How do we defrag?
You know, we've booted it into safe mode. You do that by holding down the F8 key until you basically see a little menu up on the screen that says, you know, what do you want me to boot into? Select safe mode. Now, the reason we do this special diagnostic mode of Windows, is so that nothing else is running while we want to defrag. One of the most common questions we get is, how come defrag, this little program that runs, it gets to like 5 or 10 seconds, and then it goes back to 0 again. That's usually because something's running in the background. It could be a screensaver, an application, a virus, scanning software. Something in there is basically accessing the hard drive, which causes your defrag tool to restart again.
So we want to do this, and why is safe mode good for that?
Safe mode's good for that because basically it shuts off all the extensions, all the extra drivers.
So nothing's running in the background.
The bare minimum version of Windows. Once you're in there, we're going to double click on my computer, and we're going to right click on our hard drive or C drive here and scroll down to Properties. Click on Properties, and you get the fabulous Properties Windows. You're going to click on the second tab, which is Tools. And down at the bottom, we have our defragmentation status. Our last defragment, well, you know, 89 days ago.
I think it's time we did it. How often do you say, actually, for me, that seems about right, every 3 months. I guess if you use the hard drive more, you should defrag more.
If you install and uninstall a lot of programs, if you work with a lot of files, it's worth checking, actually, even if you're in Windows, right-click, check that defrag tool, and it'll tell you how defragmented your hard drive is sometimes.
So if it's more than, say, 10% fragmented, that would be time to defrag?
I'll be honest with you, sometimes it can take months to get to 10% defragmented. That's a huge amount of defragmentation. It can take forever to clean up. And actually,
really?
Sometimes I've actually seen a noticeable performance difference if the hard drive
even only 10% fragmentation.
Yeah, if you have the
what would be the threshold? 1% fragmentation?
Probably 3 or 4%.
Oh, really? Okay.
I also like to defrag more often because I'm always looking for that extra little bit of performance.
Defrag could take a long time depending on how big your hard drive is, even overnight, right?
Yeah, even overnight, and especially again if you have a huge hard drive
with a lot of fragmentation.
A lot of freshly installed software, it can take forever to clean up. Let it run, and you know what? If you try to do this in regular mode and it keeps restarting itself, try restarting in safe mode. Check this out. Tweak UI allows you to customize, just go nuts on the Windows interface. Double click on the Tweak UI control panel and you get, well, Tweak UI. Now let's take something a little simple here. We're going to kick over to Explore. You ever notice you create a shortcut, it's always shortcut to. It's irritating. Click on the box right here, hit apply, and they're gone forever. Or maybe if you're looking at the desktop, normally to get rid of stuff like dial-up networking and history and Internet Explorer, you've got to get into a fist fight with the operating system. Well, you know what? All you have to do is go into Tweak UI and uncheck them and hit apply. And you know what? You can even get the network neighborhood folder to disappear. Well, it has additional consequences which are not obvious. Would you like to see additional information on this? Sure. And you know what? It'll actually tell you about it. Cool thing, though, 64 kilobits fast download, works on Windows 2000, Windows NT, Windows 95, 98, and it's one of our favorite utilities, and it's free. Tweak UI does some great stuff. Windows 2000 users can run it too, but they should also check out Mike Lynn's Startup Control Panel. It's kind of like MS Config in Windows 98. It adds an easy way to control what applications start on your machine. You can find it at www.mlin.net.
What's really happening when Windows doesn't shut down is you have to understand the Windows shutdown process. Windows doesn't just say, okay, bye, thunk, thunk. It goes, and there are many programs running in the background, and it goes, and it's very polite. It goes to each and every one of them and says, excuse me,
shut you down.
I'm sorry, we're about to leave. Would you mind? It's like a bartender. It's a closing time. Would you mind leaving now? And they say that to everybody.
You can't stay here.
And then it goes back and checks. It says, have you left yet? And if it hasn't left, it checks a few times. After a while, Windows is supposed to say, hey, this guy's not leaving. Would you please shut him down so I can close? And it does often.
And sometimes.
But sometimes it just sits there.
Yeah.
And tries and tries and tries. So one of the first things to do is figure out, is there any program or process, very often an antivirus, that's not exiting properly? If you could find that, that might be the solution.
Yes.
We mentioned the Microsoft Troubleshooter. This is on the Microsoft knowledge base, the product support page. If you just go to By the way, you have to select a product to do it this way. You can also do a search in the Microsoft knowledge base, and you can find their troubleshooters. And the troubleshooters are kind of cool. It'll walk you through.
Sometimes they actually fix your problem.
Sometimes, but David, here it is, the Windows 98 startup and shutdown troubleshooter. It's such a big problem. They've created its own special troubleshooter.
Not that it's ever a problem with the operating system itself.
No, it wouldn't be anything wrong with Windows. Look what David Prager found. This is a website that has combined everything from the knowledge base plus other research, the Windows shutdown troubleshooting. They've got 15 steps, 1 through 15. The first thing they say, and this is the patch that Microsoft offers, by the way, on Windows Update, disable fast shutdown. Reason we think that has something to do with it, that was new in Windows 98 SE, and it disappeared after they did the update. So we think that might be some of the idea of
part of the problem.
The
folks.
idea of fast shutdown was Windows wouldn't be so polite. It'd just say, okay, I'm leaving, everybody out.
Yeah.
And then would shut down. But if everybody didn't get out, it wouldn't work so
Instead, to use our bartender metaphor, it just sort of passed out on the floor and left the wrong screen up on the window.
But you'll see some of these other problems, including, as Marty mentioned, a corrupt sound file, a corrupt shutdown screen. There's bad device drivers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good information in here. We've got a link on our website. I think the number one problem I've come up with is the Norton antivirus. Norton seems to be particularly guilty of this with the auto protect feature. For some reason, it just didn't always close.
It doesn't want a virus to shut it down and then write
exactly.
To your system. It's a little recalcitrant.
Exactly. Exactly.
Seems everybody wants a faster PC or at least faster downloads off the web. Here's an email we got recently from John Dover in Austin, Texas. John wants to know how he can get a faster connection over his dial-up modem. Glad you asked. All right, if you're one of the unlucky ones still using a dial-up connection to get to the internet, and that's probably 48 million out of these 60-odd million people connected to the internet, we got one for you. Now, many dial users don't know this, but with a simple addition of an init string to your modem, you got a chance to make it A, run faster, and B, run smoother. Well, what does an init string do? It's a set of commands that get sent to your modem that allows it to exchange information with a modem on the other side, basically to allow it to either run faster or take advantage of hardware features. Check this out. Now, first place you want to go to is whoever your provider is. I use NetZero on the road. Search around. Chances are they'll tell you. They'll either have a list of their own init strings or they'll send you to another site. In this case, the fabulous people at NetZero, they're cheap. Hey, that's why it's free. Send you to go to modemhelp.org. So we clicked through there. We found our modem. Now, in my case, my modem at home was a US Robotics Courier V.everything. And what you'll do is find the one that matches your modem, and you're going to copy that init string. The init string is a set of commands over here. So let's copy that puppy out. Next, you're going to go into your modem control panel. So we got modems. You're going to select a modem. You're going to go to properties. Then you're going to open up the connection settings, advanced, and look at that. Extra settings, similar windows available in Windows 2000. We're showing you in Windows 98. Cut and paste, hit OK, and the next time you use that modem, it's going to be set properly. Once you've taken care of those little speed things on your modem or your cable or your DSL, you know what? We've got one more hot tip. Leo Laporte found this. It's called Download Accelerator Plus. Download it from downloadaccelerator.com, install it on your machine, and you will be amazed at how much faster you can download anything over the web.
By and large, unless it's broken, don't fix it.
Okay.
I'm sure you've heard that a few times before. And for most of their operating systems, it's not broken. Right.
There is one setting that you say, that one and only one setting that makes a difference. It's called TCP receive window.
Right.
Is that RWin?
People refer to it as RWin because
Okay.
that was one of the acronyms used by Microsoft in the past.
Tell us what RWin does. What does this setting do?
Well, it's important to remember that TCP/IP is an error checking protocol. It's designed for reliable transmission, unlike some of the other forms of IP networking.
Right.
So we have a problem here where every packet that gets sent, this is a little animation showing packets being sent from the remote site down to your computer, has to be acknowledged. Your computer sends back a little teeny packet that says, yep, I got it. And if that packet doesn't come back, then the transmitter knows, must have gotten lost, and it'll resend the data.
Okay.
So we have this little dialogue that has to go on back and forth. Send out data, get the acknowledgement
I'm sending you
back.
data. I say, here's some data, and you say, got it. Then I can send you some more. Do I
Right.
wait until you say got it before?
That's the problem. If you had to wait and there was a significant delay, then things would go
That
pretty
would take
slow.
a long time.
So
that's what we're playing with
that's
here.
where receive window comes in. Receive window allows the receiver, which is your computer, to tell the sender that he can actually take a lot more than just one packet before having to answer one. So the sender says, great, I've got a budget, I can send out a bunch of them before I start having to worrying about answers.
What is the optimal setting for this?
It turns out that you can't just pick an arbitrary number and have it always work. The setting depends upon how fast your connection is.
Yeah.
And that's a function of your speed, whether you're on dial-up or cable or DSL,
Right.
and how long the latency is, how long it takes the packet to get from the remote system to you.
Now, if I set it
different
wrong,
times.
what's the drawback? We spend time waiting for ACKs?
Two different things can happen. Set it too low, and because we're waiting for the ACK to come back before we can send more, things slow way down.
Right.
We send a little data and wait.
So too low's bad.
Too low's really
Too big's bad too, though.
Too big can be bad too, because if something goes wrong and a packet gets lost, we have to wait until we find out about it, and then every packet that we've sent since the one that got lost, we have to send those over again.
No kidding. You can't just save those and stick the old packet in?
There's a couple ways to come at it.
Okay.
Pretty good rules of thumb. For the dial-up environment, the standard default in Windows is fine. The default is 8K in the old Windows, and it's 16K in the new Windows.
Don't mess with it.
Don't mess with it.
Cable modem DSL.
Well, one more thing. If you're on a LAN, don't mess with it either, because 8K is still good on a LAN. Because even though that's fast,
there's
not much latency.
Got it. But where there's a latency, which is DSL and cable, big time.
Bad combination, high speed and big latency, because you're going maybe across the country or around the world. So that's where we have to worry, and that means we have to open up the window.
Make it bigger.
And it turns out that for the average consumer, who's probably getting in the range of 1 million bits per second on cable or DSL, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, and he's typically got latency of 100, 200 milliseconds, that a window of between 32K and 64K is just about right.
Now, you can do that in the registry, but there's other easier ways to do it. The Navis FAQ is a great place to start.
Thank you.
Speedguide.net also has information about where exactly to change those settings.
Exactly.
Do you think they do a pretty good job?
Well, we all have different tools and different techniques. The important thing to remember is that any of them will work as long as you only mess around with the receive window.
This is the only thing that matters.
That's the only thing that matters. And while the other settings might not hurt, and many of them are benign,
they might help.
And messing around, you might break something, and
let them do the let the operating system do its job.
Right.
Folks, busting urban legends every day on this show. Thank you very much.
One of the hottest topics right now, whether you're young or old, 3D gaming, one of the biggest things is 3D performance. What we're talking about here is a graphics accelerator, does all the 3D rendering, makes all those cool things in Quake 3 and your other favorite games look hot. You know what? This is actually an interesting board. We're going to talk about it in a second. But right now, look behind us. Check that out. GeForce 3, the hottest, the biggest, the snazziest, the fastest graphics card anywhere. And you know what? About $300 for it. It better be. In fact, this graphics card is so advanced, most of the games you own now cannot take advantage of what it does. So you know what? What's the point? The point is that later on this year, games are going to come out and actually work on that. In the meantime, though, you don't have to spend $300 for great performance. Something like this, a 3D Profit 4500 from Hercules, sports a Cairo 2. It uses a different technology and has some awesome gaming. Looks almost as good. Doesn't have some of those latest DirectX 8 features, but it's going to make amazing gaming performance for you.
I'm just wondering if the card is the most important thing. Is it like the kind of the key to getting a good game?
Well, it's one of the keys. The two other keys of having enough memory in your system and two, processor power. Because the thing is even with the ones with hardware transformation and lighting, you still need to feed this card. Whether you're talking about a Cairo or GeForce 3, the truth is what we've seen is at a certain point, most of these cards, the high-end cards, the latest cards, are going to flatten out in performance if you have anything slower than a 1 gigahertz system.
So no, tell me that's not so. Here I am with an 866, and it's not worth it for me to go out and get a high-end graphics card?
It's not that it's not worth it for you. Here's the thing. It's only going to be worth it if you start playing at really high resolutions, well above 1024 by 768. You got to hit 1200 or 1600.
So when I get a really high-res screen, I need the faster processor as well as the faster video card.
Yeah.
And if I don't play with a higher-res screen, I can stick with a cheap card, the GeForce 2 or...
The truth is I play at home and I'm perfectly happy with a TNT 2.
Wow.
That's what, 2 years old now.
Yeah, that's pretty old.
And you know what? I still get
We gotta
great
get you a new
1024
card.
messages. I don't need a new card. So the thing you do need, though, if you have an older card, if you're perfectly happy with its gaming performance, there are some things you can do to make sure you are getting most of the performance out of it. One, make sure you've got the latest drivers for it. Two, download and install the newest version of DirectX, which would be 8.1, I think, at this point, 8.1a. Reduce the detail level in the games if you're trying to squeak some more life out. The thing is, the longer you wait before you buy something like a GeForce 3, it's going to drop dramatically in price. By the time the games are out that'll take advantage of this card for Christmas, chances are you'll pay half as much for this because they'll have the GeForce 8 or 9 or 12 out at that point. In the meantime, reduce the detail level on your game or play at a lower frame size. The truth is, most people, if you're playing something like Quake 3, you're not going to notice a lot of difference. You know, you're twitching and you're blowing up things in the distance. Why worry so much about the details in the background? You're not looking at the beautiful monitors or the little lakes that quiver.
Well, what you got to do, you got to put the ethanol bit pump there on the frameits, and you collect that there, and you pump it in there, and it goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Mr. Cliff
Thank you very
Clavin.
much. Yeah, it's a very simple thing there. There's nothing to it.
You want to tell them the truth?
Yeah.
We're
It's
talking
called
about overclocking.
It's not so interesting.
No, it's actually, you know, pretty mundane stuff. You get right down to it. What we have here is a 1.7 gigahertz Pentium 4.
No, you're not going to overclock that. That's like the fastest chip out there. Why overclock that?
Well, you know, just like the whole mountain thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
you are a zombie.
So we're up to we
monster.
Can't, I want 2 gigahertz because I've got nothing better to do with my life.
And
folks.
can you get there?
1,954.8887.
Dang!
That's where we're flat lighting. That's where it's hanging
So
up
if you
on
go 1 little megahertz faster, it crashes?
it doesn't crash. It just won't boot. Here's the thing about overclocking. folks.
Okay.
What you're doing?
That's a lot better.
Back in the dark days, they used to basically turn up the clock on the processor. It's like getting free processor. Here's the downside. You're getting a faster processor. You're not paying any more money for it, but what you might be doing is damaging your processor, your system, your motherboard, your memory.
You know, I always hear that. I don't know anybody who's damaged a processor from overclocking. Is it common?
Want me to try it right now?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Would it break the processor?
You know, in theory, you shouldn't be able to.
All I've experienced is unreliability, which actually can be worse because you don't know why it's crashing, and it's crashing, and it doesn't quite. And sometimes it'll work and work and work, and then you do one thing and it crashes.
One of the things, though, is when you overclock, you generate more heat on your processor. You're running it faster, possibly, than
You may
it was
even
designed to
be
be
pumping
run
up the voltage a little bit to get a little more speed out of there.
Exactly. And let's take a look. Back in the old days, you used to have to do all kinds of jumper settings.
In my day, when we overclocked, we had to set a jumper on the motherboard.
And you climb inside your system, you grab little things,
to have
move
to do
around, and it takes forever. What you can do with this, though, you go into the BIOS, you go into what they call a soft menu in the case of this particular one.
Abit was the first company to do this, although many companies now offer overclocking motherboards.
Exactly. And normally this will detect your processor speed, in this case 1.7, right? It would be automatic and everything would be happy. But that's not good enough for us.
You want to, can you just, user define.
Exactly, because what happens though is, can we close in on this down here? See where it says 17? That's a multiplier. They lock the multiplier on these processors now, so that's the multiplication of the front side bus speed.
The bus speed times the multiplier
Equals?
yields the speed of the processor. In this case,
Exactly.
a 100 megahertz bus times 17, we got a 1700 megahertz processor.
And, you know, you generally,
so we can't change the 17.
Right.
Can we change the bus speed?
as a matter of fact, not only are we going to change the bus speed from its normal 100, we're going to actually clock that puppy up to 115.
Ah, I see. It's a 15% increase. There you go.
We like that thought. You know, this computer's so
Okay.
smart it does the math for us. You might also play around, as you mentioned earlier, CPU voltages, because sometimes what happens to increase the reliability, you crank a little more juice into the processor.
Not a lot. We're talking tenths of volts
Yeah,
here.
well, actually, if we kick down there, we're going to kick off CPU default and go into user define, and we kick down there. You can crank it up pretty high.
Yeah, I noticed you weren't, so you didn't
Right.
need to, but
If you don't have to, don't change that. Here's the thing, folks. Do this in little bits. So we've reset this, and we're going to F10 to save out. We're going to relaunch that system.
and that's all there is to it. The side effect is that the bus is running faster, which means some cards may get confused. It can mess up your AGP multiplier, which can make your video card unreliable or not working. And some other cards, for instance, our Ethernet card didn't like the faster speed.
Exactly.
So what, you put another fan on there, right?
What I actually ended up doing is right. Well, with actually putting a fan on the Ethernet card caused it to work properly.
That's amazing.
Go figure. There we go. What happens though is they actually lock these systems. Any Intel-made motherboard or that's co-done with Intel. It's amazing. Entering
was it
setup
F2?
good.
Yeah.
It won't let you change these settings. Remember, we had all these settings to change in this system, and we open
This is an Intel co-designed motherboard. Intel doesn't like overclocking.
No, because they want you to run the chip at the speed they sold it to you.
Now, I'm going to give you a contrarian opinion. I think, and I used to overclock, and I was big into it. but I don't do it anymore because well, what are you laughing at? Chip prices have gone down so much that I think, $352 for 1.7 gigahertz, why overclock? Why not just get the more reliable, stable system, run it at the marked speed?
So you're saying overclocking is a younger man or woman's game?
You're saying I'm
You've
too
lost
old
your
for it?
edge. You've burnt out, Leo. You lost your edge.
All right,
No.
yeah.
And the truth is, you know what? If you want a nice, safe, dependable system, get an Intel motherboard, run it at the stock setting, put a decent fan on it, and don't change it.
That's what I did. I'm happy.
If you want to get stupid, you're going to have to buy another motherboard.
Dell for my mom, this for my teenage son.
You know what? From the emails and calls we've gotten on the show, you think everybody in the United States was either building their own computer or networking a bunch of systems together in their house. Here are the top hardware questions we've gotten recently. All right, you just got a fat new broadband connection in your house and you want to share it across a whole mess of computers.
This is more and more common as people get high-speed internet access, and many people have multiple computers in the same house. You don't want to have modems on all of them.
No, that'd be bad. So you got cable, maybe DSL, a satellite connection at one end. Normally you connect it to one machine, right? That's the way they always seem to want you to set it up.
And that's easy.
That's easy. So you got your machine, you got it connected.
But if just give you some room there.
Just give us some room. Yeah. But you know what? If you want to connect it to other machines, the first thing you're going to need is probably an Ethernet card or a second Ethernet card.
Let me just give you some room here.
Give you some room here? All right. Well,
this would be an Ethernet card.
Right. So most of them now, actually, so a lot of the newer ones connect to your machine via USB, like a cable modem or a DSL modem.
Right.
A little more old school, they'd actually have an Ethernet card in your machine.
And this is an RJ45 connector. it's like a phone connector, only it's a little fatter. That's the more traditional Cat5 cable.
Exactly. That's also the least expensive way to network your house, so we're going to talk about that
15, 20 bucks for these things.
Easily. And a few dollars more for the cable. Now, what you want to do, if you don't already have, basically, if you have one of those in your machine, you're going to need a second one. If you don't have one in your machine and the modem connects via USB, you're definitely going to need at least one of those cards.
Okay.
All right. So you get that. Now, if you're only connecting two machines, you can keep it real cheap and use what they call a crossover cable.
So we'll have a cable, one cable going from the cable modem to the machine.
Yep.
A crossover cable, a second cable going from machine 1 to machine 2.
That's not a regular Ethernet cable. It's a special Ethernet cable. It has a couple of the wires reversed, and it allows a couple of machines to talk to each other without having to have one of those critters, which is a hub. You want to grab the hub?
Sure, I can do anything for you, Pat.
We can do anything here. We're screensavers.
This is a hub. Now, the hub is kind of a passive device that lets you put multiple connections into one box. And that way you could have, this could go to computer 1, computer 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's kind of like the hub of a wheel.
Exactly,
and all of
like
those wires are spokes.
Okay, so we got that. Once you've got all that hardware in place, you're going to need something else. You're going to need a little bit of software. The software acts as a proxy. Now, the proxy means that when one of your computers out on this network you created, it's like, I want to see something from the internet. It goes to the proxy. The proxy goes through your machine up to the internet, grabs the page, brings it back down, and sends it down.
These are pretty lightweight. They don't have to occupy a lot of memory. They don't take much CPU cycles. You just run it in the background on the main machine connected to the internet, and it passes along requests and then passes along the information. The proxy server we're using here is free. There is a proxy server, internet connection sharing, that comes with Windows 98.
Some people love it, some people hate it, but it is
so
right in there,
easier.
Windows 98 SE. And this is Analog X. Go to www.analogx.com, go to his networking section. You'll find a little program called Proxy. Take you about 2 seconds to download.
So if you don't have Windows 98 or ME or XP, or if you just are having trouble with ICX that comes with Windows, this is a good choice because it is free.
Exactly.
And I think it really does a great job. So how do we configure it? We just turn it on?
You basically just turn on the HTTP. Basically, you can set up HTTP and FTP.
These are all the different protocols.
POP3 would be for your email.
SMTP is outgoing email.
Yes.
NNTP is the news groups. SOX is a kind of a sophisticated protocol that allows multiple other things to happen.
Right.
These should probably all be turned on unless you have some reason to turn them off. We just press OK, and it sits there in the background down here, waiting for somebody to ask it to do something.
If you have multiple machines running, if you're networking them all together to share the internet connection, the main machine, that's the one that's connected to your cable or your Ethernet, your cable, your DSL line, is going to have to be left on 24 hours, 7 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year.
Because it has to always be running this proxy software.
Right.
Oh, that's a drag.
It is a drag.
Isn't there a better way to do that?
Well, you know what? For about $100, you can get something from Linksys or D-Link Inc. or a bunch of other companies, and basically they call them either an internet connection sharing box, an internet router.
Broadband router is what Linksys calls it.
Cable fast Ethernet broadband router.
It combines this hub with a little intelligence, not much more intelligence than this proxy server software, and it does the same thing, except this you can leave on all the time, and who cares?
And it won't sit there humming in a room. It won't burn up a lot of electricity. It won't, wear on your machine. That's a really nice way to do it, and it's really easy to set up because they basically all the setup's done. You type in a number, you get a web page, you click a few times, you're done.
If you already have a computer, you don't want to spend a lot of money. The NICs and the cables with an inexpensive hub, about 50 or 60 bucks, is the cheapest way to go.
Definitely.
But the best way to go is to buy a broadband router. They're not much now, 129, 150 bucks.
Actually, some of them are under 100 now.
Nothing. And it does all the work for you. No configuration, no software. You just plug it in and it'll share the internet. A little configuration.
All right.
I love how he slings computers. Man, you're powerful, powerful.
Shaking, that's third.
Why would I want to replace the power supply?
Well, I replaced the power supply because this power supply is dead. And without a power supply, your computer, it was already dead.
Can I do that with a computer too?
Not with my e-machine.
Okay.
But that to get is like a $70 power supply. That was $25 from my local computer store, and I'm cheap.
And it's a better power supply,
It's a much more powerful power supply.
Yeah.
We actually have another nice one from Antec. But basically, let's grab a system back here.
Okay.
The first thing you want to do is you want to determine how much wattage your system needs.
You're not going to remove and replace a power supply on live national television, are you?
Hey, you know what? We can do anything once on the screensavers.
He's amazing.
And if we don't go to jail or blow up, we can do it a second time. But what we're talking about here is, one, you're going to look for the form factor of the power supply.
Make sure it matches. If you have an AT motherboard, get an AT power supply. ATX motherboard, which is the most common, get an ATX power supply. The power dongle is one of the other features. This is an ATX dongle. An AT dongle, there's two of them.
Right.
And so that has to match your motherboard, or you're not going to be able to give your motherboard power. So you not only have to match the physical space in the case, you got to match the connector.
And it gets even more complicated. I recently found out, as of '98, some of the later Dell power supplies actually use two slightly different wires on there. I like it. It's kind of like a mace, a Morningstar look. Look at Leo here for a second. Swing it around, Leo. Just don't hit me. It's over the shoulder with the power supply.
That's what all the Huns are wearing today.
But if you get the wrong power supply connectors on the Dell, you can actually burn out the motherboard or the power supply. That would be bad.
And of course, P4s have power supplies with two connectors.
Exactly.
So you got to get. I think we got the point. You got to get the right kind.
Check the wattage. In this case, we actually undid the screws on this. We're going to slide that out of the case.
Which one do you want to put in?
Well, you know what? First, I have to do the most important things. I rip parts off of it.
Oh my gosh.
But you know what? Before you remove the screws like I did, you have to remove all the power connectors.
Is it supposed to stick up like that?
Not normally. Here.
Is that the pump? Oh, that's the bit pump. Okay.
Somebody hold this. The pattern procedure. And we're actually going to turn around. We're going to take off the main power connector in here.
You probably do that first. By the way, do this with the computer unplugged, please. And don't open your power supply. There are parts in there that can zap you. If it says no user serviceable parts inside, do not open. Don't open it, okay? Jiminy Christmas, how many times am I going to tell you kids? Okay, so you got the power supply out, removed all the connectors.
Oh, don't forget, there's one last 8-point connector on this one, but yeah, you also want to make sure, check this out. Look at your power supply before you move it. Check this, because you know what? This is not a normal ATX connector. Do you need extra power? Do you need additional things? And two, reversing it, it's just that simple. You just slide it back in, put the two screws back in.
I've replaced my power supply on my system because I added more hard drives. I wanted more power. I went out and got a high-end third-party power supply.
Yeah.
There are times when you want to do that.
RAM.
RAM!
How does it affect you?
Let's talk about RAM.
Let's talk about RAM. What is RAM?
RAM, it's those big sheeps with the curly horns. They go.
No, this kind of RAM.
Oh, memory. All right.
Random access memory. It's kind of like your computer's scratch paper, and it's temporary. It's not like your hard drive. You lay it to your hard drive. Well, even hard drives aren't permanent, but relatively
more
speaking,
permanent.
Yeah, as long as your computer's turned on, what you put in RAM, unless something goes horribly wrong, is going to stay in RAM.
So data and programs load from the hard drive into RAM for temporary working, and then they go from the RAM in and out of the processing unit.
It's like going from the warehouse to the workshop in front of you.
And when you're done with a document, you must save it from the RAM to the hard drive, because when you turn off your computer, the RAM says,
Huh? What happened? What happened? I don't remember a thing.
It gets erased. So back in the day, they used to actually solder these little RAM chips. These little chips on there, we get a shot of that. These little RAM chips used to be soldered directly down on the motherboard. Nowadays, they actually come on these little sticks.
That's actually a good way to do it. Then you don't have to, you can add more RAM, you could take RAM out, you can move it around.
Should we tell them about what the sticks are?
Sure. Shall I go with the oldest stick in the world?
The oldest stick in the world, the SIM, single inline memory module.
It's even older than this there.
And you just have to install them in banks of 2. And yes, basically, if you want to do a 16 megabyte upgrade, you got 2 8 megabyte sticks, and you put them in 2 slots, because hopefully you have 2 slots open. So these different SIMs and DIMMs, actually, the next memory advancement, where they basically put 2 banks of memory on a single stick.
Now, the original RAM, and this is the original RAM, was called fast page mode, but as processors got faster and faster and faster, they had to speed up the memory to keep up with the processor.
EDO RAM?
Yeah, EDO RAM. This might even be EDO. And then we got to SD RAM, which is synchronous, which ran at the same speed as the computer itself.
So basically, it entered or read data on the upside of each clock cycle. Technically, I guess it's SDR, SDRAM, single data rate SDRAM.
Synchronous dynamic random access memory. That's what this is. And this is a DIMM, is it, or is it a SIM?
That one is actually, that's a SIM. You know that? Let's take a step here. What is
this? Is the original SIM.
That's the original SIM. This is a DIMM, a dual inline memory module. If you're upgrading that, you either know what you're doing and are financially restricted, or it's time to upgrade or buy a new computer.
So here's a DIMM.
You take your DIMM, right? It's real simple.
Okay.
Okay, watch this. You're gonna aim the little cuts with the little tabs inside the DIMM
there's
socket.
only one way to put it in. You don't have to worry about putting it in wrong.
You have to actually make sure you get it in the little white ears in the corner.
And those ears clip up and they hold it in place, and then you can't, it's solid.
Well, should we tell them what DDR RAM?
Oh yeah, okay.
Double data rate RAM, one of the newest RAM technologies. Basically, it can read and write data twice. Once on the upside, I guess once on the downside of each clock cycle.
So it's twice as fast as single data rate RAM or SD RAM.
The other competition to this is RDRAM, RAM bus, which is really only used with the Pentium 4. It was a separate design, a proprietary design that was come up with.
Very expensive design.
Yes, I guess this is a RAM bus inline memory module, if I'm not mistaken. And the whole idea is that it actually, the max of the DDR can run at like 200 megahertz with a 64-bit word. This runs at 800 megahertz, which sounds huge until you realize it's only using a 16-bit word. It's only found in the Pentium 4 right now, and it's probably going to be disappearing into the darkness.
The future is with DDR RAM, and that's probably what most systems are going to use down the road. Of course, there'll be new RAM as processors get faster. There'll be faster technologies.
And you know what? And you're going to need more and more of it. 64 megabytes is probably the minimum today. It's so cheap, 128 megabytes for most even business applications.
Can we now talk about the sheep with the horns like this? Because I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah.
We'll save that for another show.
Sheep with horns. Thanks.
They kind of got a curly.
Exactly.
Like that.
Hey, you know what? Napster might be dead, but you can still make your own MP3s. If you're interested in transferring audio tapes to CD, or maybe putting all those MP3s on a CD you can play in your car stereo, watch these segments to learn how.
We're going to show you how to make your own CDs, burn your own CDs.
From MP3s, no less.
From MP3s, and although this will work from anything that you can get on your hard drive, waves, MP3s, Windows media files. Really what we're going to do is show you how to, remember in the old days when you'd make a cassette with your favorite songs in order?
A mixtape.
A mixtape.
And then we moved on to mixed CDs.
That's what we're
doing.
doing.
Burn our own CD audio.
Burn your own mixed CD. We're going to use a program called Music Match, not because it's the only software out there. In fact, if you have a burner, chances are it came with some software, Adaptex Easy CD Creator or something like that. But this is freely available at musicmatch.com. We love this product. And it frankly does a great job of encoding as well as of burning.
Does a great job of making MP3s, does a great job of making MP3s.
Should we show them out real quickly how you might get an MP3 on your hard drive? If you put a CD in the CD drawer, it'll automatically recognize it. It goes out in the CD DB.
Number 3 lights. It's a 50-second song. It's a fast
CD database. And there it is. It went up. That's the nice thing. It looked up all the names. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to use the recording interface to actually burn a copy of it. I'm going to uncheck all of them. We don't want to do it. Which one did you like?
Lights out.
Lights out.
It's fast.
Let's say we want to take this off of the CD, the audio CD, and put it on our hard drive. I'm just going to press the record button right here, and it's going to do something called, the kids call it ripping.
Ripping. This is actually
short for
ripping and encoding.
ripping off, I think. It's taking the data from the CD and putting it, it's not really ripping it off, you own the CD. Notice it did that so quickly, about 8 or 9 times the actual speed. A 9-minute song encoded in about 1 minute.
But to do that, you have to have a really good digital audio extraction on your CD-ROM drive. You want to test that in this and test it at the front. And 2, you want to have a really fast processor. Those are the 2 things that really make your system rip fast.
Now, as many people have, I've ripped my entire CD collection on there. We've done that here. If I'm going to click the File button on here and show you our library. This is a library of existing MP3s on the hard drive, organized by artists. In fact, like I know you like the Mighty Boss Tones, because we got a few Mighty Boss Tone cuts here. Let's show you. What we're going to do is we're going to show you how to make a playlist out of this. I'm going to clear the existing playlist because somebody's been messing with my playlist. I'm going to make a brand new one by just dragging cuts up from the library into the playlist. And I can put them in any order I want.
Get simmer down.
Simmer down, is that a good one? In fact, you like that so much, let's put that in front. Yeah. That's number 1. So there's our list of songs that we're going to burn. Now you can mix them, match them, put any songs from any cuts that you've got on the hard drive on there. Once you're done, you just press the CDR button. Patrick, do the honors. Would you insert one of those shiny blank discs?
We've actually taken the precaution of pre-inserting a CDR.
Oh, you're so smart.
Hey, you know what? We're on top of this here.
I'll tell you, just to save time, because this is, after all, a limited time television event. Let's just encode. Which one did you like the best? Simmer?
That's good. Simmer down.
Simmer down? All right.
So what this will automatically do is it takes the video on there, excuse me, the audio on there, and it actually will not only take it from the MP3, it'll reconstitute it, like adding water to freeze-dried food. It'll turn it back into a CD audio file, which is the only thing most normal home or car CD players will read, and spits it back out and burns it onto that CD.
Isn't that beautiful? We're not going to do it right now because we don't have that much time left. All you'd have to do is press the Create CD button, and it would do it. And it does everything from making the CDs as we did, making the MP3s as we did, to making the CDs on the other end.
It's nice software.
Pretty cool, huh?
If you find out you're making coasters or maybe frisbees when you're burning CDs, it's probably a buffer underrun. 2 things to do. First, make sure you've turned off all the other applications on your system before you start burning. Now, second, make sure you defrag. You know what? It's a great idea to do that. Speeds up your system, and we showed you how to do it earlier in the Windows Tips chapter. I have a beautiful dub of a live ska show by a band called the New York Citizens, which I'm never going to be able to get again. But
and you want to save it because the cassette will not last forever.
You know what the cool thing is? You can do it for free now if you've got the hardware in your system.
Show us what we need to do.
All right. First thing, you've got to have a sound card inside of your system. Take a look down there.
Almost any will do, right?
Almost any will do. Make sure you use the line. If you have a choice between a line in port and a recorder or a microphone port, use the line in port. It's not as sensitive as the recorder.
Is that the difference? It's a lower level.
Generally speaking, it's a little friendlier because one of the things you got to watch for is the output from the tape, whether you're using a Walkman or whether you're using a household type thing. You need to adjust the level on that because if the signal's too high from this, horrible things are going to be recorded on this.
That's the number 1 problem, is overmodulation, and people have. Now, it's usually better if you can get line out of a component deck into the line of a sound card. You'll need a cable like this, right?
Yeah. What you're going to do is that's the RCA and converts it into the 1/8" phono jack. Unless you happen to have a $600 sound card, you're going to be using one of those little phono jacks on the back.
Right.
You know, if you can borrow a $1,000 Nakamichi Dragon tape cassette to plug into the back of your computer, you're a little ahead of the rest of us.
You don't need to watch this segment.
Right.
This is more. This is actually, a lot of people have just a headphone jack out. Can that work all right?
It can work all right. If there's what they call a line level output on, like they have on CDRs or CD-ROMs or gee whiz, portable CD players, that'd be better. But just do this. Keep the volume down, fairly low.
Let the amplification occur here, not in the Walkman.
The amplification in the Walkman is going to do bad things.
So Radio Shack has these. These are just a couple of bucks, the cables you need to hook up. This is mini to mini.
Yeah, an
stereo,
8-inch.
Obviously.
Unless you like monophonic music, we don't. Now, once you've got the thing wired up, now the settings that we should point out in case you folks don't know.
This is the most important one. People often say, I don't hear anything, because their mixer's not set right.
Right. And we actually do is, if you go into the mixer control, which is off that little
just double click the speaker there.
Exactly. You're going to go into options and make sure you've got properties, and then you're going to look for the, whoops, that's the wrong one. You're going to go for recording. There we go.
That's the key. Don't be looking at the output. You want to look at the recording and make sure that you've selected the proper input.
Exactly.
In this case, line in is not selected, so we wouldn't get nothing.
That would be bad, so we're going to select that. Well, here's what's really cool. Now, we're going to use Music Match for this. You're a huge fan of Easy CD Creator because they have a bunch of software built into that cleans up audio.
Does the hiss and stuff. Although with Cool Edit, I think what we just saw with Cool Edit, that'd be a great choice too.
Cool Edit's another one. SoundForge has some wonderful plugins. There's a lot of software out there you can choose from to clean up, because the biggest thing that's going to happen is you're going to end up with that hiss that normally Dolby reduces that comes on audio tape. You're also probably going to find in some additional noise, because you know what? Most of our cassette tape collections are a little beat up.
That Scott tape, I'm sure, ain't in too good shape.
It's about 12 years old. It's showing it.
Now, Music Match has the capability of taking line in, which is, a lot of people don't realize this. They think it's for ripping CDs. But you can, if you go to the recording settings,
we go down
to
the settings.
I want line in, and I want to convert it to a wave.
First of all, you're converting the analog signal from the tape deck into a digital signal in your computer. If you're saving it in a WAV file, you're saving it pretty much about the cleanest, the largest file size you can save.
Uncompressed.
Exactly. If you try to save it directly into MP3, you're squeezing it, and then you're going to squeeze it and change it again when you put it into the CD audio format.
So we're going to take line in, we're going to save it as a WAV, and that will be good for either converting it to MP3 later or for burning it to CD.
So we got that set. We got the line in, we got the WAV. So
this is the trick.
Are you ready, Leo?
Pressing play and record at the same time.
And boy, there's a play button on here.
You got a big, long gap at the beginning.
This worked before the show. Here's the thing, though. Unless you start and stop that cassette tape, remember making mixtapes off of albums?
Yeah, it's just like that, isn't it?
Exactly, because otherwise you're going to have to take this gigantic, because you'll end up with a huge WAV file. You're going to have to take it and edit it, and then convert that into the individual songs.
Okay. So now I have it in my library. I can burn it as a CD. I can listen it back. I can make it MP3s if it's going to stay on the hard drive. But you got a permanent copy.
Yes.
And that's the best thing.
At least as long as you don't drop your hard drive.
Right. And you the thing to remember, of course, is technology is always moving. You'll have to do this every few years because CDs aren't going to be around forever. Hard drives aren't going to be around forever. That Scott tape, we want it to be around forever. We get this question a lot, and it makes a lot of sense. You've got a lot of videotapes, I know I do, and you'd love to get them digitized and on the computer in a form that you're going to preserve. These tapes are going to wear out after a while. Yes. We're going to show you a method that copies them to a plain old CD using a format called VCD. It's about VHS quality and about an hour per CD. Just around the corner, you're going to be able to do this on DVD, which would be a preferable way to do it.
Just around the corner being 6 months to a year or 2 years.
Yeah. So, well, you might as well. Okay, you could wait. We're going to show you how to do it if you got to do it today with what you've got. We've got an analog tape player here.
So you could have a VCR, you could have your camera, your Super 8, whatever it is.
But here's what you'll need. If you've got an input device like one of these, you're going to get this into your computer and onto a CD, you're going to need a video capture card. Right. That's what digitizes the analog tape into bits so that the computer can read it. You're going to need some software, and we'll show you what you need. And then finally, you're going to need a CD recorder, obviously.
You can get something for $100, even a USB video capture cable for as little as probably $75. You could use the RCA jack input on your netcam. There's lots of options. You just need something that'll capture the video on your system.
The best way to do it, of course, would be DV with a FireWire. Usually, and this is how it's going to be, it captures it as an AVI file. There's an AVI file, and this is a nice little home video like you might have of Megan, her sister, and her little niece, and she's so cute.
Oh, pretty. Nephew.
I can't tell from here. Now, you could just burn it as a data CD, and then somebody would have to have a computer to play it back. But
we're going beyond that. Anybody can do that, send it to a computer. What about people who maybe have a DVD player but don't have a home computer?
We want to put it on a format that actually predates a lot of these formats, predates DVD, called video CD. It was very big in China where they didn't have VHS recorders. In order to do it right, we have to convert from a big AVI file here, see it's 54 megabytes, into a specific MPEG-1 format. Now, you'll notice the size is much smaller. To do that, I use this program called AVI to VCD. You load the AVI file. It creates a target MPEG-1 file that's exactly the right frame rate, size. It converts the audio to exactly the right format. It must be in the proper format to make the VCD.
We should say this right now. The nice thing about this program is A, it's free, and B, AVI to VCD does all the hard work. Getting the format right for the VCD is the difficult part. This makes it a no-brainer. Next step, you've got to burn it onto a CDR. The easiest way to do it is probably with Easy CD Creator.
Nero will do it. Many will, but you want to look at
the most user-friendly environment for creating.
I love it. It allows you to have menus and stuff. And we burned it in the VCD format, converting the AVI to the MPEG-1. Now, not all DVDs will play it. The DVD has to be a multi-read DVD player. Most modern ones will. If I do this right, I press play. And then, where'd that come from? And look, now that's not bad. That's pretty good VHS quality on a big screen, and you got a video of Cole. You should have seen me as a kid.
All right, I know you're not really paranoid. You just want to make sure your system is secure and safe from, hackers and viruses. You're not alone. Here are answers to the top 3 security questions we get, along with a guide on browsing anonymously.
All right, here we are in boot camp to learn perhaps the single most important thing you can learn when you start computing is how to protect yourself and your computer from viruses. These are little beasties that are out there. There are thousands of them, tens of thousands of them out there. And people create them, I guess, just kind of vandals. People just want to play around with you, mess with your mind. They create them designed to get on your computer and do bad things, sometimes really bad things like delete the contents of your hard drive. Sometimes just little bad things like mail stupid emails to everyone you know. And you don't need a virus to do that. You're perfectly capable of doing that yourself. So we're going to show you how to keep from getting those viruses on your computer. There are really 2 kind of basic categories of things to do. The first one is behavioral, and the second one is kind of structural. And let's start with the structural thing, the thing that you should do right now, which is get an antivirus program. There are lots of them out there. You go to the computer store, you've got half a dozen good ones to choose from, and I'm not going to tell you which one to get. Any of them will be fine. They'll get the job done. Better to have some antivirus protection than no antivirus protection. I'm even going to show you how, if you don't have the money to get an antivirus, one will be provided for you. This is the Trend Micro folks, who do a very good antivirus, also offer online an antivirus program. This is at housecall.antivirus.com. This program installing itself from the internet automatically, and then it will scan my hard drive for viruses. It really is important that at least monthly and preferably weekly, you go to the site and you update the virus definition so it knows about the newest viruses. Dozens of new viruses come out every single day. And you really want to make sure that you're protected against everything, all the little beasties out there. Now I want to talk to you about a behavioral change, something about what you do that will protect you from viruses. Right now, the #1 way people get viruses is through email. This has really been a change in the way viruses spread. Until just a few years ago, you mostly got viruses by sharing disks with friends. The virus would be on a floppy disk, on a program in the disk. Your friend would give it to you and say, hey, here's the neat new Framitz dictionary. You'd stick it in there, and all of a sudden, you'd have the virus on your computer. That's not how they spread very much anymore. They really spread via email much more commonly. Now that's really bad because email is instantaneous, isn't it? A virus could spread across the whole world in less than 24 hours, which makes it very difficult for the antivirus companies to keep up. I have a saying, it's very important. I want you to memorize it, burn it into your brain. Don't open attachments. Email attachments are the #1 way people get viruses these days. A program will be sent to you. It looks like a perfectly benign thing. Maybe it looks like a picture, or it says, hey, open me quick for a way to save money on your online service, or something that's kind of cool like that. Very likely that it's a virus. Even if it comes from a friend, it may well be a virus. These viruses, that's how they spread. They infect your system, they go through your address book, and they send copies of themselves to everybody you know. That's really the worst impact of these viruses. They're just darn embarrassing. So don't open attachments. If you get an attachment from somebody, call them up, say, did you really want to send me that? And I would even ask them, did you scan it with an antivirus program before you sent it to me to make sure it's not a carrier? Be very careful about sending attachments. Don't open attachments. That's the behavioral change I want you to make. And then, of course, I want you to have an antivirus program and keep it up to date. You do those things, you're going to be safe on the internet. If you're on a cable modem or you're on DSL line, you have a high-speed internet connection, I do recommend you lock your computer down, and you can do that very easily with software called Zone Alarm. This is a firewall. A firewall basically puts up a wall between you and the outside world to protect you. And from the outside world getting in, And should the outside world get in, to protect you from them sending any of your stuff out. Now, the nice thing about Zone Alarm, besides the fact that it works, is there's a free version, and that's why I recommend it. Just go to zonealarm.com and click the free download here. And I know they want you to buy the Pro, but you get just as much protection with the Zone Alarm free. It's just a couple of megabytes download. And the newest edition of Zone Alarm is really great, because a lot of times somebody puts a firewall on, they have a lot of questions about what's going on. Why are the alarms going off? Well, this will explain to you step by step what's going on when Zone Alarm is running, what the alarms mean, what you can do about them, whether you should worry. Don't panic. It's just locking the door, sensibly so that the bad guys can't get in. It's running now. It's running in the background. There it is. And it will protect me without using up a whole lot of memory, a whole lot of my system, without slowing me down a lot. I do recommend you do that to protect yourself. There are a couple of other things that's very important for computer security. One I say all the time, don't open email attachments. That's another way that hackers can get in, and Zone Alarm won't protect you from that. Don't open email attachments, and do have a good antivirus program which you keep up to date. Those are the 3 tips. I do them all the time because it's so important. Security is easy to do, but you gotta do it. All right? So that's the answer to the question, what do I do about hackers? Get a firewall, don't open email attachments, and have a good antivirus and keep it up to date. Now, there's 2 kinds of firewalls. There's software and hardware. Let's quickly look at the software. The advantage of software is it's free or cheap, easy to install. Pretty easy to understand.
Yeah, so when we say software firewalls, we usually mean firewalls running on computers or on hosts.
Right.
As opposed to network-based firewalls,
right.
Which is the second kind. So this is Zone Alarm, which is one of the products.
Right. It's free, too, which is nice.
It's free, and it's very easy to configure.
Right.
The drawbacks are that it's very easy to configure, which means that it doesn't do much.
Right.
So, if you want to do something beyond the trivial, you won't be able to use it.
Right.
And also, it's a little bit annoying when you use it. You have windows keep popping up.
We're getting one right now.
Yeah, and you keep have to saying, I want to allow this, I want to disallow that.
Right. So as far as software goes, you liked Black Ice until its recent sale, and you like Zone Alarm, all right. But you think these are better, huh?
Yep. So these are hardware-based devices. We have 3 of them here.
This is the one we everybody gets this because it's cheap, and it's really mostly used for routing for traffic.
NAT.
It's for NAT. It's so that you can have multiple systems on a single IP address.
Yeah, so speaking of multiple systems, if you want to use the host-based firewalls, you'll need to go and install one on each machine you have at home. And if you have 5 or 6, then you have to install it 5 or 6, and you need to be consistent across them. And it's a little bit hard to do that.
So this is going to be in between me and the outside world.
Yeah,
I'd only need one, right?
That's correct. You basically put one of those between the outside world and your internal network, and it protects you once you configure it. So configuring it is not that easy. It's not as easy as configuring the software.
It has a web interface, but I know you're right because we get questions all the time.
Yeah.
You like these 2. These are 2 other products.
Yeah, so this product is called Sonic Wall. This is a Sonic Wall DMZ. It's a little bit higher end than what you can get. The product you might want to look for is called Sonic Wall Soho 2.
The advantage of the DMZ is it has one port for an unprotected computer, and then the other port would be for the subnet that is fully protected.
I wouldn't say unprotected, I would say a little bit less protected.
Less protected, yes. All right.
Yeah, so this is the Sonic Wall, and if you really want to go high end...
How much, just quickly?
You can probably find it for about $400 on the internet.
And this is high end, but you can't buy this direct, can you?
You cannot buy this direct, but if you work for a company that has security, your IT director can probably get one for you. These are about $500. They're called NetScreen. And the cool thing about it is basically these guys were able to take and shrink the technology that we developed at Checkpoint into a little box. So this product is essentially as good as the Checkpoint firewall, the $10,000 Checkpoint firewall.
Really?
At least for home users, yes.
Full stateful inspection.
Full stateful inspection.
But I've got to know a lot about what I'm doing to configure this thing.
You need to know a lot.
I know to know what ports I want to open, what ports I want to stealth, what ports I want to block, things like that.
Yep. And this is mostly for telecommuters. They're targeting this box at telecommuters, which need higher security.
I'm calling NetScreen tomorrow, and I'm saying we want to do a screensavers. If you want the security, it's worth it. $500, right?
Yeah, $500 list price.
All right. I want to buy one.
With all the hype about hackers and government tracking your identity on the web, it's about time the screensavers told you just exactly what you can do to stop this stuff, stomp it, And here to do that is Screensavers and Call for Help web maven, producer, madman at large, Mr. Tom Merritt. So what exactly can we do to stop people from finding out what we're browsing at?
Well, there are several services. Some you just go to the web and you can use. Others you download and you can use off your hard drive. And they protect your identity.
Okay.
And mask your surfing. And so people don't know where you're going or even who you are.
So I understand there's like stuff like encryption and IP spoofing and...
Right. Those are the two major ways they protect you. Encryption is just PGP. You know, it's taking all the information and wrapping it up and keeping people from finding out what it is.
Okay.
But if you just use encryption, people still know who you are. They just don't know what you're saying.
Okay,
so like having a
they know
gag
you're
over
doing
your mouth.
something, but they don't know what it is.
That's where IP redirection comes in. And what that does is it's sort of like running through the stream to get the scent off of you.
I like it.
The service will take the IP address, put a new one on, and put a new one on, and put a new one on, and just keep doing that.
Just confuse whoever's watching at that point.
Now, if the FBI came in and subpoenaed the records, they might be able to trace it back to you. That depends on how much registration information you have to
left
give up.
behind.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So exactly who do you recommend to make your browsing anonymous?
There's three that we like. Two of them I use, and one of them's your favorite, actually.
Don't tell them.
I used to use Anonymizer a lot.
Okay.
It's a free service.
Okay.
You just go on the web to anonymizer.com and you type in whatever URL you want to visit. Yeah, okay, so I want to go to visit my own site, of course, because I'm vain. But look! You don't get to go right there. Not in the free version. They put up this splash screen to kind of get you to pay for the real version. And the real version has some other things, like it allows you to accept cookies. Okay. So if you want to shop or you want to check your Yahoo Mail, you can do that.
But it's still anonymous. It still knows. It keeps your cookies, but it still keeps a few layers between you and
it encrypts the cookies. So they keep them on their server. That's only the pay version. The free version, you don't get to use cookies on Anonymizer. Okay. But there is another one called Subdimension.
Subdimension.
And I just found this one out. Russ Pitts, our line producer, found this one out. And they not only do free email, anonymous email, but also free web surfing.
Cool.
And watch the comparison shopping as we type it in.
That was subbrilliant.com, folks.
You don't have to flack for me. That's okay.
Come on, it's fun.
Boom, it's up already. We didn't even have to blink.
So there was no 30-second delay. There was no vicious wait.
Right.
Does this actually offer you free email?
Yes.
Really?
Offers you free email too.
So it's all free. Is
All
there
free.
any pay component to this one?
Nope, and they don't ask for any information from you.
Really?
Whatsoever. So they also accept cookies.
Okay.
For free.
So you can actually
do
do
your shopping and
browsing.
you can check your email and all of that for
Very
free
nice.
on Subdimension. Now the other one's Zero Knowledge, which I've never played with, but this is one you
Zero
like,
Knowledge
right?
is fun. Zero,
Absolutely Zero Knowledge.
just a bunch of cypherpunks got together and actually, basically they use NIMS, anonymity, encryption, and redirection to basically try to bury. They actually have no idea who you are.
So the NIMS are the way they keep from knowing who you are, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Basically, you purchase a bunch of tokens. You trade a token for a NIM. I believe it's $50 for 5 tokens for a year.
Okay.
That's almost it for this collection of top tips from TechTV's The Screensavers. Now, before we go, we want to make sure you know there's more information on any of the topics we covered on this tape and a whole lot more at a special page we set up for you at www.techtv.com/top tips. Now we're going to kick it out with a bang and a buzz. Here's those best of moments I promised you. And hey, you know what? If you like this tape, ask your local cable operator to add TechTV to the lineup. And in the meantime, check out techtv.com online. I promise you, you won't regret it.
Our question is, have you ever attacked your computer?
What do you think, Leo?
No. You missed it. The camera guy missed it. There was a great shot of the thing exploding into little...
We'll try it again. Ready? Okay.
Go ahead.
We're going to throw it over that way.
You're going to...
Actually, no.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just
I'll
get
get
Megan
out of
like,
the way. Yes? No! He broke it. The rest are missed it again. And again, one more time. Patrick's like the gorilla in the Samsonite commercial. 888-989-7879. You can email us, fax us at 415-437-5869.
It's always the power supply.
It's the power supply. It's tough. Don't mess with that. It could shock you.
If you do this and get hurt at home, it's not our fault, and we will not.
Well,
This
Patrick,
is so good.
Well, Patrick he's really enjoying it. Coming up on today's show, if you want to write your own operating system, we've got some information for you.
And Leo's going to challenge you for it. And Roxana is calling in. She wants to know how to restrict downloads on her business computers.
So who are you dressed as?
I don't know.
That's all your actual stuff, isn't it?
I think I was going for that whole perfect storm, I'm about to drown look. I'm not sure.
You're trying to look like that George Clooney character, aren't you?
Well, I thought you were going to be George Clooney. Skipper, that's a big wave.
It's a big wave.
Oh.
Today in the chat room, Intel actually...
You're a sumo wrestler, though, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Glad you got that. Boy, he's sharp. Today...
Like a tack.
What makes, I understand why it jumps the gap, because you've got electricity on either end, and it's close enough that it can jump the gap. Why does it go up?
My understanding, my knowledge, I'm going to get yelled at by physics teachers all across America, but basically you end up creating a plasma stream that's burning through the air right there. As it heats up, it rises.
Oh, I get it.
Very
Heat
simple.
rises.
Heat
and then
rises.
it falls off the edge, and a new one starts at the bottom.
As it gets so far apart at the top that it can no longer jump the gap there.
How come it goes up when you jiggle it?
You know, a lot of things.
No one knows.
Family show, Leo.
Before we go to the chat topic, and I'm really excited about the chat topic, I got to ask you a question. I came into work today and I found this.
Oh, no.
Big mouth Billy Bass was slit up the middle. Do you know anything about that? I'm really upset about that. Did somebody do this? Because I'm very upset. This is my Big Mouth Billy Bass, and somebody... No! You're killing it! Oh. It won't die. All right. Today in the chat room.
Sorry, folks.
This thing is tough.
Look at it. It's still going.
Still going.
That was the manifold off a 1971 FJ40 Land Cruiser.
You cracked the backing, but the Billy Bass is... At least it's not singing anymore. Would you use a driver